Thank you, Shelley. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Cities Association of Santa Clara County Board of Directors meeting on October 10th, 2024. I will call the meeting at 7:01 p.m. We're almost to the end of the year, not that I'm counting the meeting. And with that, Shelley, can you please call the roll?
Ann Bybee. Sheila Mohan.
Here.
Lisa Fliger.
Here.
Stanley Ma. Matthew Hudes. Carmen Montano. Carmen. Or Evelyn Chua. David Elahi.
Present.
Mark Turner. Or Marilyn Liebers. Margaret Abikoga. Here. Greer Stone.
Here.
Rosemary Kamei. Or Sergio Jimenez. Mark Turner. Kathy Watanabe. Tina Walia. Or Yan Zhao.
Here.
Larry Klein.
Here.
With 11 present, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Shelley. Are you muted? Because there's
I'm not really sure what's going on. Should I mute?
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. Thanks again, everybody, for making it tonight's meeting. Do we have any public comment on non-agendized items, Shelley, either in room or online?
No one online.
And with that, we will move to the agenda. And the first item is the consent item, and we only have our usual minutes from our last meeting of September 12th, 2024. Any questions, comments? If not, I will look for a motion to approve.
To approve.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented by Klein, second by Watanabe. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Oh, you abstain? Okay. One abstention. Motion passed.
Shelley. And next we'll move to the president's update. And the main item that I'm presenting for this is the presentation of the slate from the nominating committee. And as a reminder, pursuant to the bylaws, at the last meeting as president, I formed a nominating committee. I appointed Larry Klein and Sheila Mohan to the nominating committee. And we were able to meet at least once and created the email along with Shelley, and we sent it out to all council members, and we had, as you know, a timeline for responses and applications. Based on the responses we received, we discussed the different applicants, and so we have a proposed slate for our 2025 officers for the Cities Association of Santa Clara County. As a reminder, this is the proposed slate. The nominating committee has this role to vet applicants, but we don't have the final say at the actual election on November 14th, so our next and last board meeting of the year. You as members of the board will get to vote on the officers. You will also have an opportunity to nominate yourselves, your colleagues on the board, or you could also nominate someone on your council who is not a member of the board. Because the bylaws allow us to have up to 2 individuals who are not board members, council members, obviously, who are members of the association, serving on the executive committee. So, for example, of the 5 executive committee members, the president has to be a board member. But for the other 4 positions, first vice president, second vice president, secretary, treasurer, and if there's no past president, an at-large member, up to 2 of those other positions could be served by people who don't serve on the board. Because that's one of the questions I received, where someone said, well, I don't know who's going to be on our board next year because our mayor doesn't do the appointments until January. And that's okay, because if that person is still a council member, even if they don't get selected to be on the board as their city council representative, they can still serve as an officer, provided that there are no more than 2 of them on the executive committee. And that's something that the nominating committee, Sheila, Larry, and I discussed. And so the state representing fits that bill. And we'll see what happens on November 14th if we get any nominations from the floor, but we'll closely monitor it to make sure that we comply with the bylaws. And So with that, I know you're all waiting in anticipation. Here is the proposed slate for the 2025 officers for the Citizens Association. President would be Larry Klein, who's our current first vice president, mayor of Sunnydale. The first vice president would be Tina Walia, who is our current second vice president, and so she would move up to first vice president. And as you know, she's a council member in Saratoga. The second vice president and chair of the Legislative Action Committee, because as you know, it's part of the vetting process, I'm kidding, but the second vice chair does also wear the LAC chair hat. That would be J.R. Fruin, who is a council member in Cupertino. He's vice mayor, actually, right, Sheila? Yes. Vice mayor in Cupertino. And then for secretary treasurer, and I'm going to look to Anne to help me pronounce Elliott's last name, but it's Elliott, who's a council member in Campbell. Zola. I've been butchering it all week. Elliott would serve as our secretary treasurer, and then as past, I would serve as the past president, and I plan to serve the year. Otherwise, we would have an at-large position. So that's the proposed slate, and we're very excited about it. We have folks from up and down Santa Clara County, small cities, medium-sized, large cities. So we think it's a great mix, and so we look forward to the election in November. And I'll pause here to see if you have any questions for the nominating committee. Doesn't matter, John. So to that question, it was not a competitive process. We only had one applicant for each position. So it was an easy decision. But I will tell you, so even though we only got one applicant for each position, the nominating committee still discussed each applicant to make sure that we thought they would be a good officer for the organization. They were all vetted. Thank you, Sheila. Because honestly, if there was someone who had applied who we weren't sure would be, serve the organization well, we wouldn't necessarily put them on the slate. But we thought all four individuals, based on their experience and their answers, we thought would be a great fit for the organization. But you are the ultimate decision makers. Okay, seeing no questions, any public comment on this item, shall we?
None.
Okay, and we'll discuss the holiday party later on in the agenda item number 5. And so I'll save my thoughts there and we'll go into more discussion there. And you'll notice that it's a very short agenda tonight. I wish Mark was here from Morgan Hill, because I was planning to say, see, sometimes we do have short agendas. So with that, we are going to move to item number 3, and this is from our last meeting, and thanks again to Steve Preminger who helped us reschedule this item, because it ties in really well with our theme for the year, which focuses on mental health. And so our next item, it's the County 988 service update. And we have 2 guest speakers, and as Shali pointed out, they're not the names that appear on the agenda. They had to do a switch, and we appreciate them still finding speakers for us. The first speaker, I'll do brief bios. Lan Nguyen. Lan is the Crisis and Suicide Services Division Manager at the County of Santa Clara's Behavioral Health Services Department. He has been in this position for 12 years. Prior to this role, Lan worked for the Santa Clara County Social Services Agency, Department of Family and Children's Services, as social work coordinator and then social work supervisor, overseeing the joint decision-making unit for 12 years. And then the other speaker from the county on item number 3 is Megalyn. And I apologize if I'm butchering names. My names get butchered all the time, as I completely understand having to go through this each time, so I apologize. Mego is the Prevention Services Division Director at the County of Santa Clara's Behavioral Health Services Department, where she oversees suicide prevention and substance use prevention services. Prior to this role, since 2017, Mego managed the county's suicide prevention program. Thank you both for being here. I see you online. And so with that, I will turn it over to both of you, and thanks again for being here.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, great. Thanks for, appreciate you all letting us call in virtually. As was mentioned, I think this was on the last month's meeting agenda. Didn't end up getting to it. So I'm here covering for Jay Donahue, who's on my team, the communications manager. And then, of course, I have Lon with me here tonight as well to help answer any questions. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so we're here to talk about the 988 Crisis and Suicide Prevention Lifeline. This launched nationally 2 years ago. And since then in the county, we've been undertaking a very concerted communications effort to let people know about this service. Some of the cities we've already been partnering with and are already very well versed in 988. So some of this might be familiar to some of you. But really our goal for 988 is for it to be as well known and top of mind for folks as 911. So we're continuing these efforts. The effort with messaging around 911 was many, many years. So we know we have a lot of, a lot of work to do. So we're going to continue these efforts, and we hope you can also help us get the word out among your cities about this service. So just some basics, what is 988. At a recent community event, somebody asked, is this really just like a 911 for mental health? And that's probably a pretty good way to think about it. 988 is available nationally, and if you dial the number from your phone, you'll be connected to the nearest call center that has 988 counselors there. In Santa Clara County, you will be connected to the 988 center that is run by Lon and his team, so County Behavioral Health Services. And what's different is that 988 in our county is also an entryway to access other behavioral health crisis services that are pretty uniquely available in our county. So that's not a feature of the national service, but when you do access the county service, you will be able to be connected to some of those other crisis services. So you can see here, it's the Crisis and Suicide Prevention Lifeline, gives you free emotional support when you or someone you know needs help. It's 24/7 and is anonymous and confidential unless law enforcement or medical emergency response is needed. How do you use it? There's 3 methods available now for accessing 988. The first one is calling 988. And in Santa Clara County, you can also access 988 by calling the 800 number, which is the call center for the Behavioral Health Services Department, and pressing 1 for that option. The texting service for 988 just launched, Lon, I think it was this year, correct? Pretty recently.
It started July 2023.
Okay.
So it's about a year something, yeah.
Yeah, we're at the 1-year anniversary for that. That one is available only in English and in Spanish right now. And then there's a chat option for 988 as well. If you go to that URL you see on the screen, 988lifeline.org/chat, then you can access it by typing on your computer and chatting with the counselor that way. When should you call, text, or chat 988? So this is available to any individual, or if an individual is concerned about someone they know, they can also call for that person and speak to a counselor on their behalf. So common reasons why someone would access this service: they're having thoughts of suicide, they're experiencing a mental health crisis, or they're simply just feeling overwhelmed and are in need of some support and need to talk to somebody. I was a volunteer on a suicide and crisis lifeline many years ago, and the majority of the calls that came in were really from people who just needed to talk to somebody and help them get through a difficult moment in their day. In terms of languages, I did just mention the texting service is available only in English and Spanish. However, the calling service in our county has the ability to support callers in over 200 languages. Most of these are going to be through the interpreter service, but LAN does have a lot of counselors available who speak other languages, Spanish, Vietnamese, for example, who can speak directly to callers in those languages. For people with hearing difficulties, there are also those options that you see on the slide. Okay, so this question about the local area code was something that had been plaguing us from a communication standpoint for a couple of years. So for the first 2 years of the 988 service being launched, the calls were being routed based on the area code that your phone number had. And that's an issue because many people in the Bay Area, for example, me included, have area codes from where they lived previously. So I have a Philadelphia area code. Before, if I called 988, I would be routed to the Philadelphia Crisis Center. And that would not allow me to access the Santa Clara County local crisis services that I mentioned earlier. This is something that was an issue at a national level. The FCC has been working on it. And just recently, they've begun to fix the issue. So right now, anyone with a T-Mobile and Verizon as their mobile carrier, if they call 988 or text 988, then they are going to be connected based on their geographic location. So the FCC nationally, they're really working on righting this issue. AT&T is still in process, so that's one of the final kind of major carriers to get on board with this. So if you want to make sure you have access to the county's in-person response, then from any phone number, you can just call the 800 number that I mentioned before. It's here again, 704-0900, and press 1 and access the local 988 service through our behavioral health call center. So we have been at the county undertaking public awareness campaign efforts for the past 2 years to support public awareness about the 988 service. And we've really complemented this with on-the-ground presentations like this one. So our aims have really been to raise awareness, increase people's likelihood to use the service, and improve access to our local behavioral health services. Our points of emphasis that we really like to get across when we talk about this is that it's a free service. Doesn't matter what insurance you have or if you have no insurance. It's 24/7, available in over 200 languages, and that these are really trained counselors that provide compassionate support during moments of crisis or if you just need to talk. These are some of the public awareness campaign materials that hopefully you've seen around the county in the last 2 years. We had the campaign air in English, Spanish, Chinese, and Vietnamese. We had, tear-off flyers, targeted video and display ads. It was online, commercials on Univision, radio ads on KBRG, and social media posts. I also put here on the screen the link to the webpage on the county's behavioral health website that goes to more information about 988. And I believe these slides are going to be shared afterwards. We also had a great partnership with the VTA, and they did things like this wraparound bus that's been going around the county, as well as these places for us. And even when our campaign was off air, they continued to have these ads airing on their buses. So that was great. And we complemented that with display ads and other print displays. If you are interested in any kind of campaign materials in your cities, feel free to email us and we can get you connected to those materials. We also have some new 988 materials that are available through this link. It includes an FAQ sheet that has the same information that I just presented earlier with those basic questions. We have a when to call 988 versus 911 information sheet. And then we have a full social media toolkit that has different graphics and posts, like the one that you see on the slide here on the left, that really just boils down the information to something that's digestible, and you can, through your communications teams, put those out through your social media channels. All of these are available in all of the county threshold languages, all 6 of them. And then we also have virtual backgrounds available through this Dropbox link, like the one that is behind me right now. I think that is it, yeah. So yeah, Shali has our emails if you're interested in any of the materials, and then these slides will go be sent to you. We're happy to answer any questions that you might have right now. And then if anyone is so inclined, we're really trying to gather a little bit of information from people who've heard this presentation, just to see if we're making a difference in terms of people's knowledge about 988. So we have, I think it's about 5 questions in this survey. You wouldn't mind, you can either type it into your browser or scan it with your phone camera. But that's it. And then if there's any questions, Lon or I are happy to answer them.
Great, thank you so much. How do you pronounce your name?
I think you had it right, Mego.
Mego, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that presentation. And I don't know if you heard about the summer forum we had focused on mental health, and we did yard signs that we placed in all the different cities throughout Santa Clara County, and we had 988 as the contact number on these signs. So we recognize the great work you're doing, and we're trying to do our part in helping to spread the word so people get familiar with this number and are able to use it when necessary. So thank you so much. You have already touched on one of the focus areas for Cities Association this year, which is we not only sit here and passively, listen to presentations and hear about the great work different groups and entities are doing. We actually want to leave with action items, and you've already mentioned some ways we can get engaged and we can help spread the word. I'm going to open it up for questions from the board members, and at the end I'll wrap up, but then also come back to you, Mego, to see if there are any other specific things that we as city elected officials can do in our cities and throughout the county. So thank you. All right, questions, comments for the team? Matthew?
Yeah, I'm wondering.
And you can introduce yourself since they can't hear your name.
Matthew Hudis, Los Gatos. I was interested in the when to call. I guess I can look it up, but maybe you could just tell us a little bit about what that is.
Do you mean this social media post or info sheet?
Questions, the when to call questions. What are the gist of that communication?
So
we're all in the room, and unless we are dialed into the Zoom meeting, it's hard for us to read it on the screen. So maybe you can go through what it says for the 988, when to call 988.
Oh, sure. Okay. So on the left side, it says 988, you would call when there's thoughts of suicide, experiencing mental health related distress, if you're worried about the mental well-being of a loved one, or just need emotional support. And then in comparison, the 911 is if you're in a situation where the person or you are in imminent danger. Maybe there's a weapon involved, a crime in progress, or a crime that has been committed, suspicious activity, believe someone is in danger, or it's a police, medical, or fire emergency. And then in the full when to call info sheet, this is basically what's on the first page. And then on the second page, there's a similar breakdown for the variety of mobile crisis services that the county Behavioral Health Services Department has available. So your mobile crisis team, the MRSS, which is the youth version of that, and then the trust team, which is a mobile crisis response team that does not involve law enforcement. So it can be really easily confusing for people. We understand that. So that's kind of broken out in the second page of the info sheet.
Thank you.
So you have 911 and 988. What happens if the person calls the wrong number, calls 911 when they should be calling 988? How well do you guys integrate with each other?
Lon, do you want to take that one? I know you've been working with them a lot.
Yeah, so under AB 988 of Federal Law 988, 911 is able to divert calls considered as mental health related or substance use related to 988. And I've been working with some of the local 911 agencies developing call transfer protocol from 911 to 988. And we at the state where we're trying to finalize those call diversion protocols. Um, and in general, if we receive a call that is similar to the description listed here, we will transfer the call to 911. But generally, when someone calls 988, they will be first talking to a live counselor, be assessed about the crisis situation, why they're calling, what they're experiencing. Based on that, we will provide support. If determined that this individual is at imminent risk of suicide or self-harm, that is when we can call PSAP, actually call PSAP, and request for a welfare check for that caller. So also, it's probably helpful that I share this information. At the very beginning of the slide, it says that when you or someone that you know either experience mental health crisis or thinking of hurting yourself, or go through some difficult situation, can call, meaning that you don't have to be suicidal, feeling too suicidal to call. You can just experience mental health crisis or go through a difficult time. You can call or call about someone you're concerned about. In fact, about almost 10% or more of the calls we receive are from what we consider as a third-party caller. Someone called because they're concerned about somebody else. And that 90% of all the calls that we receive are actually able to assist and resolve over the phone. And about, I would say, 9% of those calls are actually calls that we consider can benefit from an in-person support from the mental health clinicians or specialists, and then less than 1% are actually being connected to 911 or to law enforcement for welfare check or wellness check.
Larry?
Yes. So thank you for the presentation. Definitely, it's timely, especially today is World Mental Health Day. But I know that from a county standpoint, for like cigarettes and non-smoking efforts, there were standard signs that the county was doing. Beyond the social media efforts that you're having, are there signage? Because I was just talking to the city manager earlier this week after talking to residents and talking to, a mom whose son committed suicide through Caltrain many years ago, that a lot of us that have Caltrain stations, there's not standard signage there, whether or not it's grade crossings or the Caltrain stations themselves. And just wondering, does the county have like a stock of signs, much like they did with signage for no smoking and the anti-smoking efforts that you had, that's available for different cities?
Yeah, we have a lot of this kind of campaign material in all different formats. We don't have something specifically created for like a Caltrain stop right now, but it would be really easy to just adapt one of these. I know some of these have been displayed at bus stops, for example. So we can kind of work with the formatting needs and provide signage for whatever's needed.
Okay, and the big thing is it's whether or not it's just paper or having it's the cost savings of just mass producing them and making them available to different cities would be good. But we can talk offline on how to get that done. So thank you, and thank you for what you're doing. It is a critical need within our community, especially as we're looking post-COVID. Thank you.
Thank you. And sorry, were you from Los Gatos?
Oh, sorry. Larry Klein, I'm mayor for the city of Sunnyvale.
Sunnyvale, okay, thank you.
Thank you, sorry.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Yan Zhao, Mayor of City of Saratoga. First, I'd like to thank you and your team for coming to our city to give a presentation on 988. It was well attended. I think it was just last month, so I just want to thank you. I think that was for us, we learned so much about 988 service in the past. I'm not really familiar with that. So that was I think that was like 15, 30 minutes, right?
Yes, it was. Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Mayor, for the interest of your interest and the council members' interest. Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? On the 988 call, Mega or Lan, when someone calls the 988, is an assessment done to determine whether or not a welfare check needs to happen? Like, can you walk us through how that process works? I think Lan touched on this briefly.
So when someone call 988, they will the call will first connect to the national 988 lifeline, and they would first hear a 20 to 25 seconds greetings, basically saying that if you need to speak to someone in Spanish, please press 1. If you're a veteran, please press 2. And if your life is currently in danger, please hang up, call 911. So after that 25 seconds greeting, then the call will be routed to a local 988 centers. That's when a life counselor would pick it up, that call. We will ask them, how they will introduce themselves. 90-day. This is Lan. How can I help you? And then there'll be a series of questions that they would ask to determine whether the caller is in crisis, how severe is a crisis, or are they thinking of hurting themselves? Do they have a plan to hurt themselves? So there's a series of questions based on how the questions are answered. And if 15, 20 minutes into the call, if the counselor determined that this caller is at high or imminent risk of calling themselves of suicide, some of them call. They call and they say, and they were crying on the phone. They're saying that I have a bottle of vodka next to me, and I just down half a bottle of Tylenol or something, and I have a bottle of vodka next to me. I just down half of it and have a gun. I'm about to pull it, put in my mouth and pull it. That's when we call 911. Or some of them might say that I'm depressed. I'm really sad. I'm not thinking about killing myself right now. However, they had past suicide ideation or suicide attempt. They're not considered as imminent risk, but they consider high risk. We continue talking to them if determined that this is someone that we're not sure after we hang up the call, they'll be okay or not. We'll ask if it's okay that we send a team of clinicians, go out there and see them in person for the assess and see how we can best support. If it is someone that is not too depressed, they call because something going on in their life. They went to work and found out that they just got fired. They don't know, they're crying. They don't know how to come home and talk to their wife. All of that stuff. We'll continue listening, continue to support. And that call might take 45 minutes, an hour. Those calls might not be at imminent risk of suicide, but then we'll need a lot of support. We spend a lot of time with them, as much time as we could. And there'll be people call because they feel sad that day. Their cat just is sick and they don't feel well. They're at home with the pet themselves. It's just like all kinds of call. But again, only 1% of all the calls that we receive are actually someone that need 911 intervention. That someone calling because they're in the so-called suicide in progress mode. The other 9%, we determined that sending a team of mental health specialists or mental health clinicians who will continue to assess in person, provide support, and then 90% we able to just help on the phone. And some of them, even though they don't have a high risk, immediate risk, but determined that they will benefit from a follow-up call, we will offer that and then do a follow-up call the next day. So that's kind of how the flow of the call works.
Very helpful, Lan. Thank you for that. Does the welfare check team that goes out to the location have the ability to place the individual on a 5150 hold? So
there are 3 mobile response programs or teams in the county of Santa Clara. The the team that responds to the highest level of acuity or level of crisis is called MCRT. MCRT stands for Mobile Response Crisis Team, and they are a team of 2 licensed clinicians. When they go out, it determined that the caller needs to be stabilized to 5150. They are able to write a 5150 hold, and then there's the other team that is respond to a lower level of crisis. They are a team that make up of mental health specialists who is not licensed, peer-to-peer support specialists, and a resource specialist, a team of 3. They will go out and provide support to callers who are considered as lower level of crisis, but need support, need in-person support. This is someone that might be experiencing mental health crisis, even though doesn't have self-harm intent at the moment, but they have past history of suicide ideation. They need to be in counseling and they're not doing it, and they might need social support services. That program is called Trust. Trust will go out there and respond to callers who are at a lower crisis, but need support in person. And then the third team is called MRSS, which stands for Mobile Response Stabilization Services. They are the team that are well trained to work with youth, 20-year-old and under. So based on the level of crisis, based on the age, we would refer the caller to one of those 3 mobile crisis response services.
Wonderful, and I see behind Mego, it's free, it's available 24/7, and it's anonymous.
Yes, that is correct. That is
Thank
correct.
you. Any other questions, comments? Javed, go ahead.
Yeah, it sounds like you have provided really good services. How well is your staffing? How many people do you have? Are you able to handle the calls that come in, or is there a long hold time on the phone?
So I'm sorry, is the question about staffing for the 988 crisis line?
Yes.
Yeah. So we currently have 23 counselors that are paid employees. We also have 65 volunteer counselors, and the volunteers are those that a lot of them are retirees. They are retired engineers, retired teachers, retired librarians. And then we have half of the group of volunteers and people who are who just finished their undergraduate program, either in psychology, social work, social science, and they would like to gain experience so that they can apply for graduate school to be psychologists or clinicians and so on. And so we have about 65 volunteers that are trained to do that. The volunteers work 4 hours a week, and that's the max that we would ask them to do. And before they can get on the crisis line, answer the phone, they have to go through an 80 hours of training and get certified before they can answer the phone line.
Excellent, Lanham, because we hear all the time about the shortage with mental health professionals. So it's good to hear that you're that fully staffed.
Thank you.
Mego and Lan, I'm going to come back to you again. How can we partner with you with 988 in our communities?
Beyond disseminating materials, for sure, what Mayor Klein was saying would be very helpful to give us ideas on, the types and formatting of messaging or signage that we could fund and distribute. We would be happy to partner that way. If you have ideas of other venues where you could bring us in to present, as was mentioned by Saratoga, that just happened a couple weeks ago. Or if you can bring us in for any community outreach. I have a community outreach specialist on my team, and we have volunteers that just focus on tabling and getting the word out in person about 988 and suicide prevention in general. And then every year, September is Suicide Prevention Month. So this past month, we actually partnered with Mayor Mark Turner and City of Morgan Hill, and they hosted our suicide prevention conference. And Mayor Turner gave opening remarks and was just very supportive in bringing that conference to Morgan Hill. Last year, we partnered with City of Sunnyvale. So we're always looking to bring that to different cities around the county. and kind of mix it up. So those are a few kind of ideas that come to mind for helping us get the word out, not just about 988, but about suicide prevention in general. And then I don't know, Lon, if you have anything else to add.
No, thank you for the opportunity. This is the first time we're able to present to such a important and diverse elected officials throughout the county. So thank you so much for this. And if you're ever interested to have a presentation in your own city, like we did with the city of Saratoga, with the mayors and the council there, and the community there, we're happy to do that. We look for opportunities to be able to do that, and if you would like to, we'd be happy to.
That's great, and I'm sure Shali has your contact information, and we have Steve Preminger here from the county as well. So we'll definitely reach out. I'm sure we'll all bring it back to our councils when we report back on the meeting. Last chance for comments, questions, anybody? Okay, well, thank you, Mego. Thank you, Lam. Let's see if there's any public comment, either online or in the room. Steve, anything? Okay, well, thank you. Thank you so much, and thanks for all the great work you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great evening. Take care.
Okay, move and transition to talk about Cities Association business, and I'm going to turn it over to our attorneys. We have Jenny with us in person, and she's going to be covering our anti-harassment policy. Just another checkbox as we continue the transition to our JPA organization. So with that, Jenny.
So I'm pinch hitting for Andrew this evening because he drafted the anti-harassment policy. And this was a work item that came out of the prior iteration of this organization. And it was interesting to draft from the perspective that you don't have any employees. So, and also what the JPA requires and what the agreement was between the cities is if we didn't have a particular policy, we would look to Los Gatos. So we have tailored this after Los Gatos and created a policy that defines what harassment is, and most importantly has kind of a reporting structure, the investigation, which was really the key. What the assignment was is that this organization wanted a methodology and a way to do an investigation if there were any complaints that arose. So we created a process that seemed practical from our perspective, and then also make sure that the entire board is involved, because that was also one of the main guardrails of becoming this organization. And so this evening, we present to you for your consideration and hopeful adoption an anti-harassment policy and a resolution so that you can adopt a resolution. And also, to make it more practical, we are very near election day, and we don't know what the configuration of the board will be next year. So there's also a way to keep this policy alive, and we'll provide it to all of the members every January.
And just to piggyback onto that, thanks, Jenny. So at the executive committee meeting, as you know, we previewed the agenda, and the attorneys showed us a draft and told us what they were going to cover. And because Shali does the annual orientation at the beginning of the year, we thought it would be good to incorporate this policy and any other policies we adopt as an organization. So it will just become part of our orientation of new board members, making sure they're aware of the different policies and how we operate. I know many of you were at Shali's orientation earlier this year. And so things like this will incorporate into that orientation. So with that, questions, comments for Jenny on the anti-harassment policy? Can always count on you, John.
No. We're going to work on the policy, by the way. Everything looks good.
That goes to Andrew. I can't take credit for that, yeah.
The question you guys said we have no employees, so we can harass Shali. Is that a problem?
No, you got it, no. It applies to like myself as well.
What about the rest of them? Directors considered employees?
It applies to the officers, it applies to the contractors, it applies to vendors. It's for the whole organization and where the organization is involved.
Also the directors are not officers? Does it cover those guys?
Yes. You're considered an officer of the entity. even though you're not on the executive committee.
Questions, comments? Stan?
We've had to take anti-harassment classes or continuing education once every 2 years. So we take one of those classes for that continuing education. Does that qualify us for this group? Does that exempt us?
I believe it would apply. You don't have to, but we can double check that and we haven't done that. I'll double check that.
But I want to make sure I understand your question, Stan. Exempt you from what?
From the training requirement, and it's usually for people who have supervisory.
So would what exempt you from what? I'm trying to understand the AV.
So if I go down to like Cal Cities,
Exactly.
and they have a program,
Yep,
and it takes so much time for this program.
right.
It takes a long time. So once I complete it and get certified, would that certification exempt me from this requirement from Cities Association? That was the question.
And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look at whether or not you're required to do training by virtue of your membership on this, in this organization, on the board of this organization. And if so, if the training that you take in your own jurisdiction applies, so that you don't have to double take it. That's the question, right?
Right, because we weren't saying this is a mandatory, we were gonna incorporate it as an annual training. But to Janet's point, we're gonna follow up to see whether or not, so you have triggered something by that question, so thanks for the question.
Thank you. Just don't want to do things 2 or 3 different times.
Well, let's hope there's no mandatory requirement. Matthew, is it a follow-up to Stan?
Yes, just to go tag on to what Stan just said. So as part of that 80-1-2-3-4 training, we get the certification. So we could hopefully just submit that certification to keep it on file. So like when we get it, like especially if we have a board member here, just automatically send it to the same Shali, to make sure that that there's a record of us having completed that training to exempt us from.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure it's the AB 1, 2, 3, 4, but I'll check into all of that and I'll report back next meeting.
Okay.
Matthew?
I'd just say that we've had a good experience with this policy, and so I would, endorse using the Cities Association. We recently did some training. It was very interactive, kind of training around it, and I got to know the policy, better. It isn't, I wouldn't say it's an overly stringent policy. I think it meets the requirements and is very reasonable. And I think people can understand it. So it's a little bit old. It was, our policy was drafted, I think, in 2003. But it's okay. These issues have been around for a while.
And we did update it with some of the categories, and then we also, in our firm, we passed it by the specialist in employment law, so they could add a few things to it.
Good. So I'll take those back.
Yes.
Right, she didn't just rely on those guys.
Do you guys do harassment training for city council?
Yeah, I mean, we do ethics and harassment training. It was voluntary and we didn't get very good participation. So we're thinking about, how do we step it up a little bit?
How many cities do that? Margaret, you guys do?
I think it's mandatory for my.
Well, not the AB, not what we do as council members.
No,
Are you saying Los Gatos as a city?
for our commissions and committees.
Yeah. Right, this is different. I know we all have to do it. Okay.
All council members.
No, boards and commission members is what you're asking, correct?
Like they do it not just or requirement as elected official. They take it a step further.
Your boards and commissions. We don't.
Yeah. That's great. Any other questions, comments? Okay, well, I think we need to vote on this. Is that correct, Johnny?
Yes, a motion to adopt the
Policy. Let's see if there's any public comment online or in the room. So with that, we will look for a motion to adopt the policy.
I move to adopt.
Sheila?
And because this is a resolution, I have to call everybody's name. Motion to adopt resolution 2024-005, the anti-harassment policy by Judas, second by Mohan.
You can just do it, as long as you can keep track of who we're gonna put on the votes on the resolution. You just,
You just need to know because you, before it gets signed.
Okay, for my school board. They call it by name, but anyway.
So just know who's here. And if it will help you, I mean, yeah, let us know what will help you, Shelley.
I'll just take it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion passes.
There are 11 of us here, right? Okay. All right, with that, we will move, see how we're going through our agenda super quickly, because Martha's been here. Okay, so next we'll move to item number 5, which is the annual holiday party update. Go ahead, Charlie.
I'm sorry, Vice Mayor Lopez is online and he's got a very small window that he can join us.
7:50 to 8:15. Okay, so we should jump to item number 6 then. Wait, I don't see, are you online? There you are, Vice Mayor. So I will go ahead and jump to item number 6, which is reports from regional appointed representatives. And this evening, we're hearing from our VTA representative, Vice Mayor Lopez, who's also Vice Chair of the VTA. And with him, it's not Beverly. And who is
It's on the paper that has his name on it. Oh,
so this is Manolo Gonzalez Este, and I hope I didn't butcher your name. Thank you both for joining us. The VTA actually got mentioned earlier in our 988 presentation where they shared that VTA had the wraparound ad related to 988. So a lot of kudos and thanks were given to VTA. So thanks for all your work there. So let me do my usual quick brief bio. I know, Sergio, you're pressed on time. So Vice Mayor Lopez was elected to the Campbell City Council in 2020, representing District 2, with longtime roots in the community and a lifelong commitment to service. Vice Mayor Lopez has worked at all levels of government, from the South Bay to the White House. He's a nonprofit executive, an author, and a regional leader in housing, environmental, and transportation issues. Currently, Vice Mayor Lopez serves as Vice Chair on the board of the VTA and also serves on the Bay Area Air Quality Management District. Mr. Lopez graduated from Yale University and Duke Divinity School and attends the Haas School of Business at UC Berkeley. Manola Gonzalez Este, he's currently working as a policy analyst in government affairs at VTA, focusing on communications with Santa Clara County elected officials with the goal of informing and engaging them on transportation-related issues and projects. He has years of experience in government affairs with extensive experience in public engagement, government relations, community organizing, and public and media relations. Prior to moving to Sunnyvale, he lived in Colorado, where he worked as a political consultant, managing local, statewide, and national campaigns. He has conducted dozens of training courses on politics and public participation in transportation, environmental justice around the nation to various groups and transit agencies. Thank you both for joining us. I will turn it over to you, Vice Mayor Lopez.
Thank you so much for having us both, and really appreciate the accommodation with scheduling issues. But it's really a pleasure to be with you. And thank you very much to Manolo, who I know hopped on a while ago and has just been sitting in on the conversation. Manolo, why don't you go ahead and pull up the slides and we can get started. And I'll just say a few things to frame our discussion. We have some slides that we want to share as an overview, but the goal of this is really to ask questions. And I love the example I wasn't on, but the example of the bus wrap that was shared early, because one of the messages that I often like to share, especially with our city partners, is that those opportunities for partnerships exist. And in my experience, VTA staff are planning department, operations department are really great about being receptive to those kind of ideas and partnerships. If there's some local initiative that you're working on, as in that case, or if there are ideas that you have for service, how we can better serve your community. Those are ideas that we need to rely on you to get that to us. And so during my first year as a director, this past year as vice chair, and then when Chair Cindy Chavez steps down as the incoming chair, my goal is to be as accessible as possible. And so I'm really looking forward to doing more of these kinds of meetings, perhaps going to your city councils or any community meetings you might be having. My focus as chair would be to make sure that we have that accountability and transparency that our residents expect and deserve, and all of your constituents. But it's really a partnership, and we need your ideas and what you're hearing in your community, the concerns that you're hearing, or issues that you're seeing if something's not working. So I want to be as accessible as possible. Manolo, I know if there
Yeah,
are questions that
yeah.
go.
So
Yeah, go
Shelley,
ahead.
Shelley, can you help us out? I'm trying to share my screen. It won't let me. I know I sent you the presentation. Can you share it for us
Yeah, of course. Just give me one
Thanks so
and
second.
just
much.
put it on? Thank you.
Thanks,
I knew
Shelley.
I had you. I knew I had you as a good backup. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and so just to wrap up, we'll go through an overview of just big picture what we're working on. But the slides we're going to share are just the tip of the iceberg, because we have projects in almost every community throughout the county, and we're trying to do a lot more in terms of making sure meeting all of your needs. So
Great.
why don't we go on to
Next,
slide two? Yeah.
next slide.
Is there a presentation option?
This is a PDF, so I'm just trying to figure out how to advance the slides on the. Oh, here we go. There it is.
Yeah.
There you go. Sorry.
Go ahead, Vice Chair.
Yeah, thanks so much. So as I shared, and as you know, VTA is our public transit agency, and we do bus, light rail, paratransit, but we're also the congestion management planning agency for Santa Clara County. And what that intersection means, and I've been doing a lot of travel in the past couple weeks on behalf of VTA. That gives us a unique opportunity compared to most other transit agencies to really make sure that the big picture of just how we're moving people is coheres into a strategy that serves the whole county. So for example, using we've talked about using express lanes to make sure we have a sustainable funding source for lines in particular communities.
Just next slide.
And we also, which we'll say more about, other thing that's unique about VTA that I'll point out is the amount of partnerships and work we do with other transit agencies throughout the region. Caltrain and BART being the biggest one, but many other ones where we really have a unique role to play. So here's a little bit about bus, light rail, and paratransit. One thing that I really want to highlight here, and again, this was something that really stood out to me as I've been doing travel to DC and conferences, accepting the American Public Transportation Agency's award for Agency of the Year. There's a lot that's special about our agency here in the county. We're at 95% of pre-pandemic levels, which is one of the top highest recoveries really around the country, but certainly in the region for bus boarding. So that's something that we're really proud of. Happy to get into this if there's more questions, but one of the things that we are seeing is that the patterns of who is taking it and when have shifted in interesting ways. And so VTA is working on being dynamic to meet where those needs are going, but it just really great recovery in a way that most of the public transportation community has not seen. Manolo, I'll turn it over to
Next
you
slide. Yeah.
for
Thanks.
this.
I'll take it over from here. Thanks.
Thank
And
you.
thank you, everyone. I apologize I couldn't be there in person. I know many of you already, so it's nice to see some friendly faces. So as Vice Chair was talking about, we do more than just buses. We're working together, and many of you have heard, is our downtown San Jose, Santa Clara BART extension, which I'll get to in a bit. Working with partners, doing also express lanes, making sure also pedestrian and bike projects and safety improvements in your cities. And the monies that we get are federal, state, and local funds. We are a very self-help county, one of the first in the nation that have been doing this, paying for our own transportation needs and our own services, thanks to the voters for many years. 2016, Measure B voted to support transportation, and Santa Clara County is phenomenal when it comes to supporting public transportation, and we're grateful for that. Next slide. Our board, as we had mentioned, is 12 members. We have divided into city groups. So you see here San Jose, then we have some alternates. Currently, our chair is Supervisor Cindy Chavez, and we're fortunate to have an incredible vice chair with Sergio Lopez, which, if all things go well, he will be our chair next time. I don't want to jinx it, but it should be great. One of the things is that all the cities have different type of rotations on how they do that. So all of you that have been on or are going to be on our board, we look forward to working with all of you. Next slide. Here's a big thing, budget.
And Manolo, can I just briefly add a couple of things to the previous slide? Other thing, again, this is this is going to be up to the board, including my election as chair. I do expect Matt Mahan, who's been extremely involved and a huge champion on public transit for our whole region, to put his hat in the ring for vice chair. Because that will go to a San Jose spot, and so it goes from county, small cities, San Jose, and he and I have been working together this past year as well as with our current chair, Cindy Chavez. Other thing I just want to mention quickly, because I know some of you may be alternates or have colleagues who are alternates. One of the things that I really want to focus on next year, as serving as chair, is when we onboard, making sure that everyone, whether they're alternates or part of the main board of directors, as well as PAC members, other people that we have participate in different parts of VTA, that everyone's getting the information that we need, so we have resiliency and we're doing succession planning, all these things. And so if your name's up there, or if you're putting your hand in the ring for your region, look forward to working with you on that and making sure you have the resources that you need for your communities.
Great, well said. Next slide. One of the things here you'll see is ETA has been very good about keeping on budget. You've probably heard around the county is fiscal cliff, Caltrain, BART having economic problems and issues. We tightened our belt quite a while ago and decreased bus service and decreased light rail service to be able to meet our budget. So we are not on a fiscal cliff. However, though, the way we achieved that was by cutting back our service. If we get back to all the service that we should be at this level, we would be in a deficit. But right now, we're able to run, as you see here, balancing our budget. And that's something we're very proud of, and very proud of having a board that follows that. Next slide. As Vice Chair mentioned, we're also the congestion management agency. It's not common for transit agencies to have this under them. It's usually under the county. But this takes care of a lot of the roadways, working with different cities, working with Caltrans to make sure that we all see how we move congestion throughout the county. Next slide. The main way we're doing it is through express lanes. Many of you are familiar with express lanes. We have it at 237, 880. Right now, we're also expanding on the 101. The 101 is something that we have been doing in phases. You have some of the northern sections of the county, and we're expanding it down to the south, where you have 101 and 25. That's something that we're very proud of and work very well with the county. The monies that we get from that pay for the system, and then the leftover money is put back into transit to support bus routes. Other things that we have too, one of the big mega projects that we have right now is the BART Phase 2. The first phase was, if all of you remember, was extending it from Warm Springs all the way down to Berryessa. We had Berryessa, and we also had, oh, perfect. Next slide. Here's a map of the express lanes that we have. Next slide. Measure B, as I mentioned before, is our funding, a lot of our funding sources. And many of your cities already know this, and I'm grateful for all of you participating and asking for money. This is something that it's broken up into different categories: bicycle pedestrian, local streets and road, potholes, different aspects here. All of your cities, city managers and others already work with our planning department to try to apply for these monies, and many of your cities are receiving the money. One of the things I recommend is going to our transparency website. As you see here, you can look up your city, you could look up by year, you could look up exactly how much money your city is receiving, what you're eligible for, all of these kind of things over time. You could group it in a couple cities. It's very easy and user-friendly. I recommend it. Next slide. Here I wanted to talk, there's the BART extensions. We've done it in 2 phases. The first phase is completed, where we went from up to Berryessa and Milpitas. We are lucky to say that we did that under budget and under time, which is not common for a mega project of this magnitude. Our next phases, which we're working on now, would extend 4 stations for 6 miles. Next slide. As you can see here, the first where you see at the top here in orange, Berryessa would be the end of that first phase. We would extend it under the freeway and start in Little Portugal station at 101 in Santa Clara. Now I say under, this is going to be a boring system. We just recently purchased a boring machine that will drill a single bore through the whole area to downtown San Jose, all underground, Diridon Station. Density of the population.
So we lost you for
Go ahead.
seconds there, Manola, just so you know.
Oh no, so sorry. I'll start with the boring machine. We have a single bore that we are doing. Many of you have heard these presentations, but we're going from one end to the next. We will have 4 stations that are planned right now, and we're working with the cities of San Jose and Santa Clara and with the businesses to help them along the way. Next slide. Now, time. This is something that's not going to be done overnight. It will take a little bit of time. Our target revenue service is the end of 2036. That means revenue service means when they're all running and working through the system. We're working closely with BART. They are our partners. There we will be using their trains, but we will be building it and managing it on our end. Next slide. I wanted to leave it at that. One of the things I wanted to make sure that I get to, though, here's our contact information. Many of you already have my cell phone, so I always put it out there for all of you. And the next slide is just the questions. One of the things I know that a vice chair offered was presentations to your cities. Many of you have heard me give presentations at different times. If you're interested on different projects or want to know a little more and you want a one-on-one, just contact us and we're happy to do that. If you want a presentation to your city council, we're happy to do that too. We have 2 mega projects, which is the BART project and the light rail extension in South San Jose. It's not often that cities, counties have 2 big mega projects like this. We're fortunate to be able to be serving an underserved community in South San Jose and extending BART to circle the ring. We work closely with our partners and look forward to working with all of you. I know that we had a few more minutes. We're happy to answer some questions while right on here. And when he has to jump off, I'm also happy to answer questions.
Thanks, Manola, and your audio is a little delayed, but let's see if there are any questions. Vice Mayor Lopez only has about 5 minutes. So Matthew, and for Manola's purposes, just your city and name.
Yeah, Matthew Hudis, Vice Mayor Los Gatos. This is more a comment. I wanted to thank BTA and particularly your new CEO for coming to Los Gatos on a Saturday morning and experiencing the beach cut through gridlock along with 2 of her staff. And as a result, we've generated 9 new ideas for addressing this. And it's really not, the term beach cut through traffic doesn't do it justice. It's really wildfire safety, because those are the days of highest wildfire danger. and it's the same routes. So we are doing a survey on these 9 ideas. And if anyone else would be interested in disseminating that survey in their city on the West Valley, or anyone who's experienced beach cut-through gridlock, I'm happy to send that to you. And we're working collaboratively with VTA on this, which is really something exciting and new.
No, thank you for that. Our general manager loved the tour and was happy to see it hands-on, firsthand. And that's something that now that we're out of the pandemic, we're happy to go see you guys. So looking forward to it.
Well, she got stuck for a while, so she might not go back in there.
Shall I ask Matthew to share? So, any other questions?
And Kathy Watanabe, City of Santa Clara. Manolo, good to see you. Sergio, number one, I just want to give a shout out to you. Just thank you for all the advocacy that you've been doing on behalf of VTA. It sounds like you really have this. You're going into the chair position with a lot of great experience under your belt. So that's wonderful as VTA moves forward. Really happy to hear how the use of the public transportation has come back. I mean, I see it myself, a lot of people using the buses. I live near a couple of bus lines, so I definitely see them being used. But also, I would be remiss if I just didn't give kudos to Manolo and his team for all the work that's been done with BART Phase 2 and bringing it to Santa Clara. It's been a long time coming and a lot of work. You've been to our council meetings many times and going through a couple of reiterations of things, but finally got it across the finish line. We had a great groundbreaking there about 2 months ago. And so really happy and proud to have that project being the terminus in Santa Clara. And then we also just had another ribbon cutting there out in Trimble Road. So there's a lot of good things happening in Santa Clara in terms with working on some projects with VTA and making transportation a lot better for not just the buses and the trains, but also the pedestrians and the bicyclists. So thank you for all of that.
No, you're welcome, council member. It wouldn't be possible without the support of your councils. And that's something that working in partnership is our mantra right now. Your cities want to do better, want to do these things. We're ready to do these. There's some funds available. And thank you for all of that. And yeah, we look forward to continuing that.
Any other questions, comments? Well, thank you both so much. Any final thoughts, Sergio?
I really want to reiterate first again, thank you for having us. But please stay in touch. I'll make sure. I know we shared my email. I'll make sure my cell number gets sent out as well. I really want to be accessible and be a resource to all of you because I don't believe we can be successful as an agency in serving all of our writers without making sure that we're accountable to and listening to what you're hearing and seeing in your cities and communities. And so I look at it as a partnership. I look forward to coming back and staying in touch here with this group and with others. But just thank you all for your time and all you're doing.
Thank you.
One thing I would offer is we'd be happy to come back and give a full BART Phase 2 presentation. It is going to be in the media. It's going to be it's more complicated than my 3 slides. It's something for you all to understand because there's budget, there's financing, there's all these impacts on the businesses, all these kind of things. Let us know and we could get a team back to you guys to give you guys a proper presentation on BART.
And Manolo, the other thing that I had in mind was that as we move through the MTC process in terms of getting funding and we know more about what those grant opportunities will look like, I'd love to be proactive and share that with cities here. I know that gets elsewhere, but maybe even just a brief update once we have more information on those grant funds available.
Happy to do it. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we would love to have you back. So we'll definitely figure out how to get you on our agenda in the future.
No worries. Thank you very much. I'll try to be in person next time.
Thank you. Any public comment in the room or online? Okay, thank you. Okay,
have a good night.
Bye. Good night. we'll go back to item number 5, which is our holiday party. And I'm sure a couple of you are wondering why are we discussing the holiday party again, because we had it on our last agenda and we had decided on hosting the holiday party on, when was it? Friday, December 13th. Shali and I started doing research on a place that could host us for the holiday party. And it's mid-December, peak season for holiday parties. The Cities Association has $3,000 budgeted for this event. Normally we look for a co-sponsor. And we have not been able to identify a co-sponsor. And of course, we do not want our members to pay more than $50. Like we want to have a reasonable rate, if any, ideally similar to the summer event where we had El Camino co-sponsor and covered everything. Ideally, we look for a co-sponsor to cover everything, but at most we want our members to pay $50. And so with those parameters in mind, we reached out to different restaurants. Of course, we're hoping to do it here in Los Altos. We learned that December 13th was either fully booked or it was cost prohibitive. It was just too expensive for obvious reasons. We do have a local, and it's one of the most popular and beautiful restaurants here in Tricella. And it's in our State Street Market, which was in the news a lot. Stanbach is nodding. We all know it. It's beautiful. It has even, a basement area. There's speakeasy. It has like an outdoor area with beautiful lights. You can look it up. It's CETRELLA, and it's at State Street Market, which opened a couple years ago, which is also another beautiful venue here in Los Altos. And so they have offered to work with us to host an event within our budget, but on Sunday, December 15th. I brought this to the executive committee and they were all supportive. And so we're recommending as the executive committee to change the date to Sunday, December 15th in the evening. In addition to it being a more reasonable cost, we started thinking of all the other benefits to having the event on Sunday. It's less traffic, easier parking, less conflict with other events. And so based on all those reasons, we think, it would be a good idea to have it. Larry is even thinking if we do support it on having it on a Sundays is something we consider going forward, because we run into this every year. Either it conflicts with Cupertino, having it during in ceremony or on Friday night, which companies have holiday parties, or a lot of these places are just booked. Of course, Gabe will tell me, we could have it at the community center again. But I thought it would be really nice to showcase and have an event. And Los Altos is even more beautiful, and I know I'm biased, during the holidays downtown with the decorations and the lights. I thought it'd be great to have it down there. So with that, I'm gonna open it up for questions, comments. The executive committee members are here, and we're all recommending this. Any concerns with moving the date? We also thought it was early enough to move the date so we could all get it in our calendar. And I know Shali sent out the tentative hold already on your calendar. So thoughts, comments? Oh, go ahead.
So one of the things that we did talk about with the executive board was the 8th versus the 15th. Did you look at both days? Restaurant, I forgot to ask you for the meeting.
So no, they only offered the 15th. I didn't ask for the 8th. I thought you were saying next year if you do this, you look at the first Sunday.
Just ask. Yeah. Because the more you get to the middle of December, the more people start.
So maybe I'll look for support for either date, and then I will just go back. We don't have to bring this back for a fourth time. So we'd be moving it right now. What's on the table is Sunday the 15th. I'll definitely ask about the 8th, if there's support for that. But moving it to the 15th, a Sunday, within our budget, beautiful place downtown. Any concerns? We don't have to, worry about traffic on a Friday evening, especially coming from South County.
Works for me.
Saratoga is a yes.
Yes. I like the 15 better.
Yes. Any concerns? Great. Now, it actually made sense. Once an executive committee meeting, once you started talking about it and realizing, wait a minute, it actually is better to have it on a Sunday. So we'll see. All right. So with that, do we need a motion, attorney? Yeah. No. Okay. So with that, 12:15 or 12:08. And Shali will send out an email and let everyone know. But we're very excited to have you. All right. Any public comment on this item, online or in person? And then the second part of this item, as you know, every year at our holiday party, we recognize, what's the label we give them, Margaret? We recognize an individual who has partnered with us either this year or over the years, a champion, city's champion, and then we also look for an organization that we recognize. And for the individual champion recognition this year, we're going to do Supervisor Simidian. As you know, he's terming out. And we thought it was just more than appropriate to give him this recognition his last year. And we know how much he has done for our cities. And then for the organization, we've identified Momentum for Health. Again, they were one of the presenters at our summer event. I'll tell the quick story. When we were looking for panelists and we identified them, David Mineta, who heads that organization, actually had his, I think, daughter's graduation that Saturday in Southern California. And he changed the date. He and his family were going to drive down just to make our event because he wanted to support the cities. Also, mental health is our theme for the year. And so Momentum, who provides mental health services throughout the county to all ages. That's another reason why we're thinking Momentum Health. So any concerns, questions about Momentum Health? So it would be Supervisor Simidian and then Momentum for Health. And of course, Larry will remind me that I need to make sure they're available, but we have to find the date first. So it's this whole chicken and egg situation. But if there are no concerns, questions, we'll recognize Supervisor Simidian and Momentum for Health at our event in December. Right. Thank you. With that, we will move to our City Managers Association update, and you'll see we don't have a LAC update. Tina Walia, who's the chair for LAC, she's actually at an SBCE event, so wasn't able to make it tonight. But we also didn't have a LAC meeting tonight, not just because of her absence, but because of, obviously, bills have been signed. The legislative session has been closed, but I know she does plan to do a wrap up both with her LAC committee in November and then also do a big presentation for our board. So we will get a final presentation from the LAC chair in November. And so I will turn to Gabe, who will give us the city manager's update.
Yeah, we had one of our longer meetings of the year. We had lots of good stuff on it. We got an update from Mountain View on their safe parking, transitional housing, and homeless services. Very comprehensive and impressive program, and how they are starting to partner with Palo Alto, Sunnyvale, and looking to collaborate more. We then had quite a lengthy discussion on the California Voting Rights Act, the cities who have received letters from an attorney, those who have not, and what happens if you do get one, what options you have, and the experience of the cities that have gone through it. And in between topics, there was an impromptu discussion about how effective the mental health awareness campaign that this group did, and how appreciative the city managers were, and they wanted me to pass that along. And again, just say thank you for taking leadership on that.
No, thank you, Gabe. I want to pick up on this VRA. How many cities have moved to district? Was it the letter threatening you, or were you voluntarily? Okay. I did. I actually did. I did. So we have 3. I will tell you. So we got our letter earlier this year. And so we're going through the process right now, and we have until October 31st to finalize and adopt our map. As you can imagine, our residents were not happy about it. I don't think any council member, at least majority of us, were not supportive, but you get that letter and you have limited options. And so we're moving forward. So I'm happy to hear that the city managers group and Gabe are working on this to see if there's a better approach, if there's a way to really tackle this for our cities. We all know that there's so many benefits and good things about the CVRA. But sometimes there are unintended consequences. And sometimes, as a lawyer, I can tell you it's always good to have exceptions to everything. And I would argue that Los Altos and many other cities should fall within some exception to the CVRA. So that's where we are as a city. Any comments? Go ahead, Anne.
So our experience in Campbell is we received the letter and we went to district. We had 2 elections by district. First election
consult us Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Larry.
And for us, we actually made the decision to go to districts before getting students. So we made the decision in September of 2018. And then a month and a half later, got the letter. It's like you want to go faster. And this, so the Asian Law Alliance wanted us to go faster because we were going to go through the process, put it on the ballot in November of 2020, and then do districting once we had the census data. And then this year, we will have the first re-election of any of those districts. That being said, for 6 districts, and we debated the 7 districts versus 6 districts plus a directly elected mayor. I think it was best to do 6 plus 1. But ultimately, we have the most diverse council that we've ever had, which is a positive, which is one of the positive things from what is why the CDRA is there, that it's like, yes, you've made it easier for council members to run in a district. I was talking to my vice mayor, Murali Srinivasan. He walked every door in his district twice during his election. and looking at, from a looking from a mayor standpoint, running for the whole city right now, 37,000 households, right. You're not going to hit that many households. And so it's interesting from that standpoint that it has made it easier, broken the barrier. That being said, for the 3 districts that are up for election this year, one we only had one candidate for, one we have 2, and one we have 3. So we're getting a mixture of interest and ability as far as council districts are concerned. But it's been positive overall.
Any other comments, Steve?
I just wanted to make a small point. We had a great discussion. All the research and presentation was done by your city manager, Gabe.
Thank you, Gabe. And let us know how the cities can partner with the city managers. I'm sure they'll also bring it back to their council. But clearly, this is something we all care about. So, thank you. Kathy?
Just, Santa Clara did fight it. And
what was the cost? If you can share.
Well, there's all kinds of numbers that have been thrown out there, but the reason why we bought it is because we felt that our races were not polarized, that there was a diversity in the seats. At that time, we were running in seats. And I can say unequivocally, when I ran in 2016, I had 2 people of color running against me, and I won. But everybody had the same chance equally, and it happened in other races as well. But that was not entered into during the trial. That information was not used as to defense, or the judge didn't use it in making his decision. And so that's why we, filed an appeal, because we knew from the transcripts that the information wasn't used. So there was a reason why we did it. I mean, but you won't hear that. Yeah. But we weren't just saying we wanted to spend the city's money. So, but I will say, even though, we lost, we went to districts, we have 6 districts, we have an elected mayor, I will tell you that people don't like districts. And I'm walking enough, even though I'm termed out, I'm walking for a lot of candidates right now, and I'm hearing all over the place, people don't like districts. They want to vote in every election, And, the other thing too is that half of them don't even know what district they live in. They don't know who their council representative is. And so, it's just caused a lot of confusion. And I don't know if it'll ever, get resolved. But at the same time, and I will tell you that somebody in another district filed to run for my seat because he didn't know what district he lived in. So until the city clerk told him. So there's been a lot of, negative,
Excellent points and feedback, Kathy, thank you. And it is an expensive uphill legal battle. Margaret.
A while back, some of us had talked about maybe could Cal Cities take it up? Has that been?
One of the conversations, and we had Cal City's representative at the meeting, was to circle back with them. They would obviously coordinate if there was interest, primarily probably among this group actually, to help them consider legislative fixes and then take that to the Capitol. So I think where the city managers ended up, we had a good discussion. I've had a lot of discussions today. Was we have ideas, but we really actually feel it's the realm of this body that would be taking it up, coordinating through Cal Cities. We obviously be supportive any way we can. But Cal Cities was interested in it, and they have quite an extensive history on this topic and seeking out partners who could support changes as well.
I did hear a legislator might be looking at least trying to exempt smaller cities.
So there's lots of ideas. I think the three most common we've heard through Cal Cities is a population exemption. Looking at making alternative voting methods available to general law cities. Most popular, that would be ranked choice voting. And the third one, which kind of lost steam, is moving to the federal standard of the Voting Rights Act as far as drawing districts. That seems to have lost steam, but it was still
The majority minority.
Yes, correct. Instead of a district of influence, a majority minority district. So if this group is interested, we could discuss it more. And
I was looking at Larry and Gabe. It won't be November's meeting, as Shally knows. That's going to be a full meeting. Next year, because definitely want to partner. Obviously, their support for this. Thank you, Gabe. Thanks, Steve. Okay, next we will move to joys and challenges. Charlie. Oh, I'm sorry, Shally. Go ahead, Shally.
It's not going to be terribly exciting, but just finishing up some housekeeping stuff. I'm working on our audit now that we're JPA. And the other thing I wanted to tell you all, a little bit of an apology because there was a little bit of confusion with Form 700s. I was entering everybody online, and the minute I entered you online, it generated an email. And so I know that several of you reached out to me asking, didn't I already submit this? So what's happening now is that all of us are entered into the e-disclosure program and into the county e-disclosure program. So next year it'll be much easier to file the Form 700 and there won't be any paper forms. And I'm also going to a training to kind of further cement this process in my head that the county is putting on.
Thanks for doing that, Shally. Anything else? Anything else on Form 700 you think we need to be aware of, or not at this meeting?
Not.
Okay. Thank you. Now for joys and challenges. All right, Stan, I'm going to start with you.
I think that the certified housing element that we have has been just absolutely wonderful, marvelous. Now that we have it certified, we have to designate certain neighborhoods to have certain types of buildings and the numbers of buildings and so forth. And I'm having an issue because it's becoming very difficult. Some of the neighbors just really don't want to have any additional housing across the street.
Sure, we can all relate.
So that is not a joy, it's a challenge. And I just wanted to voice it. I'm going through the challenge now. And of course, the Asian thing is that all challenges are crises. present that opportunity to us.
Right.
So, the question that I would have is, how do other people deal with that?
I'll give 1 minute for ideas.
Just any ideas would be fine, because they're very adamant, these people that live in these neighborhoods.
No, we get it.
What I found effective in interacting with those residents is pointing out what happened, the long-term consequence if we don't build that housing, and what the state will do to remove our ability for local control, and then we will have no say in our city's destiny. And that tends to make them understand a little better.
And also you can, explain why you're doing it, why we need this diversity of housing. And even if it doesn't convince them, I actually think it's always good to remind them of that.
Not to be critical of attorneys, but one of these people is an attorney.
Those attorneys, Dan. Don't argue with them. Thank you. No, we're with you. We understand.
Okay, next.
Yes. And
I just want to report, we have two major projects underway, public projects, building a new police station, and we're renovating our library, and, it's been a great process and on budget and, or under budget at the moment, and, progress is being made every day, and we've had great weather, and so hopefully we'll accomplish it and be ready, opening it in, middle of next year, summer of next year.
how are you funding these projects?
We had a bond measure that was approved in 2018. It was a $50 million bond, and it was split between the two to build a new public safety and so it's been a great process for us.
And you say public safety, that's solely a police station? or-
Solely police.
Kathy?
Okay, so, actually, it's a challenge, but it doesn't have to do with Santa Clara. It actually has to do with all of us. Because, I attended court day, and I think maybe all of us received an invitation to attend court day down at Superior Court. And it was, I guess it was just last week.
I didn't, but continue.
But, well, of course, I was there, Sunnyvale was there, Morale was there, Dan Furtado, Lydia, Morgan Hill was there, and Carmen from Milpitas. So just the six of us with a bunch of judges. And it was a great experience because they took us into two different courtrooms, and we learned about the probate process and also family court, and how COVID has transitioned a lot of how I guess hearings are held, and it's made it a lot more available. Hearings are a lot more easier to attend, either remotely or in person, and it's actually saving the county money, even though they've had a $97 million budget cut. So, but the other thing, and this is why I bring it up, is because the judges expressed to us, how they can't lobby for things, and so this was why they wanted to talk to us as electeds, because there's a need for, number one, court reporters. There is a very big shortage of court reporters. Like there's 40 courtrooms and only 8 court reporters. And if you are going to have a hearing, a lot of them, they have to bring in their own court reporter, or they just have to figure out who's going to have a court reporter available to them. So, so they just expressed, in terms of like our ability to either like through community colleges or through our associations with colleges or schools to recommend, this is as a career choice, for kids that may be interested in the legal field. It's a very lucrative position, and they definitely are kept busy. The other thing is interpreters. They have a real shortage of interpreters, especially in the self-help department, where they provide services for folks that can't afford attorneys. And so, like, I noticed there were materials in English and Spanish, and then with Vietnamese. But as they were talking earlier about the mental health and interpretation availability, it's the same thing in the courtrooms. And so So again, you know, I thought about like Mission College, for instance, has a great international program, but I know that we may have availability, you know, through Kansas College or, you know, some of the other colleges that there might be people that interested, you know, in being an interpreter for the court system. And so anyway, I just want to share that and,
That's great. No, thank you for sharing.
yeah.
Thank you.
Joy, I came here from, the Los Gatos DEI Commission meeting. Our commission's been up and running for almost a year. And, we have a lot of committees and commissions in Los Gatos. We have 13. And we have 13 members on this commission, so it's a big commission. It was very, very good, and I was skeptical about some of the parameters for this commission initially, but they have, I think, focused on tangible actions as compared to only symbolic actions. I think you need both, but it was a matter of getting that balance right.
Yeah.
And so, some of the tangible things are a new community garden, a way of involving people in transit and meals and things like that. So very exciting new commission.
Sure. The joy from a Sunnyvale standpoint, yesterday we did the ribbon cutting for Redwood Square downtown. So for those of you that have been to downtown Sunnyvale, it was where the block 3 was the biggest portion of where the old mall was. So the mall that was built in 1970s around the 2 redwoods or the 6 redwoods that were there, that then the mall went bankrupt in the 90s. I think it's why I got involved with the city 20 years ago. We finally, after lawsuits and everything else, restarted the project 8 years ago. And 8 years ago, we tore down the rusty metal structure that had sat exposed to the elements for years and years, almost to the day. So 8 years ago to the day, we tore down the metal structure. We built 2 levels of underground parking, and the ribbon cutting yesterday was for 470 apartments, 500,000 square foot of office space, and 100 or 200,000 additional retail space, as well as Redwood Square. The redwoods are now open to the air, open to the sun again, and just having a whole kind of central location as far as that's concerned. So why I got involved with the city, and when I got elected in August of 2016, one of the first things a month after I was there, we did the demolition of the old, partially built structure. And so good to finally see that open. And for 470 apartments that just started leasing 7 weeks ago, they've already leased about 50% of it. So very, very quickly are filling up that whole area, which is better for our downtown and conceivably attracts that much more retail. So it's positive steps for downtown Sunnyvale.
Two big joys for Palo Alto. In August, we got our housing element certified finally. And then just this past week, our school district and our city reached finally an agreement after 33 years for the city to purchase a portion of the Coverly Center from the school district. And now that will move forward for a bond measure in 2026. The voters approve funding it. We'll purchase the property from the school district and actually finally build a community center in South Palo Alto. So that was nice to finally bring that saga to a partial end.
Once you know there are no joys. Everything is running smoothly.
Did you have a new city manager? No.
We have an interim city manager.
Okay.
She's doing a good job. Was she able to make it to your meeting? Diane Perkins? Interim city manager. I don't know if you have your.
She's out of town.
Yeah, I don't.
When I tried to connect with her, I thought she was I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think.
I thought she was out of town when I tried.
Okay, but she's on your email list, right? At least invite her. Good.
Jen Perkins?
Diane.
Oh, Diane Perkins.
Diane Perkins. She's our city planner, but she's also now as an interim city manager for.
Yeah, so we had a huge joy, which was a resolution of a dispute we had with the California Department of Taxation, CDTFA. And this was relating to sales tax from this large corporation whose name cannot be mentioned.
But it's Cupertino, right?
It's the only large corporation in my city. But it had something to do with the online sales during the pandemic. So what we had to do, because we had no idea how to deal with this, over the last 3 years, we sort of set aside money in case we lost and the state said, give it back, and we had to give it back in a day or two. And that was a big fear, that we had to actually pay back in a day or two. So we set that money aside, and now anyway, it's been resolved. And they said we can keep all that money. So it's actually opened up a big chunk of cash for us. It doesn't take away from the ongoing budget problem, but for now, we're looking pretty good. And the challenge is we still have 23 days before the election. So every small thing becomes, it's just a fence falls down, becomes an election. Someone has a fender bender, that's a big election. We just have to get through the next 23 days.
How many people have voted so far? What's that?
Zero, no way.
Anybody voted?
Also already been received.
Oh, yeah, received.
I voted and.
There was something,
you got
ROV
recognition. I voted for all of you. And also.
Yeah.
I was wondering, what are you gonna do with all that chunk of money you saved for so long?
We've been cutting over the years, so we have to restore some of that.
Well, I don't have a big news like that, but I have a lot of small good news. And in July, we received our official certification letter from HCD.
Tina has been keeping us posted.
Oh, she already, all right, no, that's one.
Yeah, every meeting.
We worked hard on that. Well, another good news is I had a successful State of the City event. I was pretty happy. I was relieved, because this is mainly driven by me and my basically assistant city manager being helping me on that, and she's relatively new. So it's, as you all know, we have 3 new city manager, new assistant city manager, new community development director, new administrative service director. So we got all new people, and so this is, but I'm pretty happy where we got all the right people for the right positions. 2 more joyful events for me. It's our celebration of light, which is our city's traditional. It's organized by our city's ministerial association. So we have different religions. We have a symbol of light will light up in our downtown area. So we are a small community, so people, for an event like that, we can have a lot of people come to attend that. So it's a pretty good event. Also, of course, we have a tree lighting ceremony in our downtown. So we have a lot of happy, joyous events.
That's pretty, I like the celebration of love. Mark.
I'll start with Joyce. We have 2 big ribbon cuttings coming up this month. At the end of the month, the first one is our second project, Home Key project, which was a hotel conversion on El Camino. It's called the Crestview. I think now I'm calling it, I forget what we're called, Heartwood. So that'll open at the end of this month. And the other big grand opening is, so we actually have a teacher housing or education housing project that we did on our own. So in our city, we allow developers now to dedicate land instead of building below market rate units to satisfy their inclusionary zoning requirements. So this developer, and you'll see it if you drive on Shoreline Boulevard, it's a huge development, but The developer dedicated land to the city, and then we turned it over to the school district, the elementary school district. They passed the bond measure, and so we built 144 units of housing for teachers and educational staff. Although 20 of those units will actually come back to the city for our own city employees. So a different creative way of doing affordable housing and teacher housing. So excited about that project opening. And the other big one was I'm on the Caltrain board, so not quite Mountain View, but as you know, we started electrified service on September 21st. I hope you all have ridden it or have a chance to ride it. It's a really smooth, quiet, great ride. I hope we're finally in the 21st century, and I'm hoping that this will increase ridership. But we had a great weekend of celebrations, and one of my real joys was that I was able to get the Caltrain board to name a train after Congresswoman Anna Eshoo. So you'll see train 305 is the Anna Eshoo train. The challenge, I wanted to share this with you all because talking about housing elements, we actually have, I think, 5 builder remedy projects, and we have a couple of them coming to the council in the next month. And we've actually been served a letter that looks like we're being threatened with a lawsuit. And it says they're saying that there are requirements like inclusionary zoning, and we actually also require, traffic impact fees, transportation impact fees and whatnot, is making it infeasible. So there's a threat of a lawsuit. And, this is really just so frustrating because, they want us to do affordable housing, and here we have a mechanism to do it, and now they're using that against us and saying that that's going to make the housing infeasible, which, is not true because all these other projects have actually been built over the years. So, stay tuned. I don't know if we're the first city that will be seeing a builder remedy project, but yeah, it should be very telling as to what might be coming down the pike.
What group?
No, there's a group. It's a housing group. Actually,
Do you remember the name, Margaret? Because
and
the
Yimbies too.
Yeah. I'm curious to, and you can tell me offline, and Gabe knows why I'm asking, but here's the name of the housing group.
I'll look it up and let you know.
Jolly. I'm gonna join in the joys and challenges.
I'm still super happy that you all renewed my contract. I thought you wouldn't, but I'm really happy. No, actually, I'm really happy that we're getting a lot of these housekeeping things for the JPA, kind of ticks off. And Janny and Andrew have been amazing partners for me. So really, and we're gonna work on a timeline so we know what we're doing each month, and just things will just get a lot more automated and easy. So I'm actually looking forward to that. It's a future joy, but looking forward to that.
Well, thank you. LaSalle goes our challenge is the districting. We've been meeting since summer. Nobody's happy. We get a lot of emails and comments on this. And we have to do it as we discussed earlier. So it will be a challenge to the end. And we'll see what happens over the next 2 years, because we'll adopt the maps by October 31st, but the first election with the district maps will not be until November 2026. So we have 2 years before we actually have our first district election. But still, it's a huge challenge for us right now. And then the joys, I don't know if you've noticed our apricot orchard. I don't know if Gabe knows this, but we get so many compliments now as council members thanking us, because I've been in this city for many years, and I think it's the most beautiful our orchard has looked in years. And that's because the council voted last year to actually invest in maintaining our orchard. So we entered into a services agreement, and we're seeing the benefits of that. So I love our orchard. It's looking great, and I know a lot of our residents appreciate it. So that's a big joy for us. So you'll see it, it's dark, but it's around our civic center. It's really nice. So with that, what time? It's not 9, yes. We'll adjourn at, I know, Mark. So we'll adjourn at 8:57 p.m. Our last board meeting will be November 14th. That's our election meeting. So please either show up as board members or have your alternates show up. And then we'll have more information about the holiday party. Thank you.